Like a lot of colleagues today, I guess when we deal with these motions that are before us, in some ways I feel like it should be more of a celebration motion rather than a condolence, because Linda, like many other colleagues who have gone before us, have not just offered an insight but also a new way of thinking and a connection that we all can get together and celebrate. And every morning when I walk up to the hill here from my place of residence, I always make an effort of walking past the plaque that now exists with a number of our colleagues who are no longer with us. And for those that don't know, there is a little plaque over on the other side, on the House of Representatives side. There's a little rose bush there that when you do come up for some time, there wasn't no plaque there for former senators or senators who'd passed while in office, but there is one now, and sadly a growing list of names are now being added to that plaque. But I really just wanted to spend just a very brief moment today just to pay my respects to someone who's obviously been a dear friend and a colleague, and obviously to her staff who are here today, particularly to Ben and the team, and I know there are others who'll be watching today. We've heard many tributes, not just today, but also last week at the memorial service, which, to be honest, I found quite informative, but also very emotional as well too. The movement as a whole is mourning. Members right across the country are mourning because Linda was really close to many people's hearts. She was someone who was passionate. She didn't really care about the title. She was just determined to make sure that working people in this country not just got a fair go, but actually got better paying conditions. And she wanted to improve their lives and leave a legacy behind. And that's why she did spend her entire life championing the rights of workers. And she rightly pushed those boundaries. And in a podcast that I think she did a couple of years ago, she spoke about her pathway, not just at university in the movement and ultimately here in the Senate, but she spoke about her pathway and how her parents instilled those values. And I know Senator Sheldon mentioned about the values, but it's those values that I think all of us would understand. The values about making sure that we create meaningful change in our community, for the community, so that future generations can also benefit from those changes. Her mother, who was a local kindergarten board member and involved with the kindergarten, her father was actively involved in many organisations, volunteering organisations like Apex and Rotary. I think you could see that Linda's involvement in the community was a result of what her parents had taught her in about making a contribution back to society. And as we heard last week at the memorial service, her first experience of governance came during her university days at her time at Melbourne Uni, where she served as the president of a number of societies, but particularly the Commerce and Law Student Society. And as you'd expect from Linda, she engaged with members, she advocated for them, she helped run events, made sure that things were financially viable, and in turn helped people so that they could come back again and also make a contribution back to those respective societies and build a bit of a sense of community at university. In addition to her very successful legal career, Linda was very integral in terms of the Australian Services Union. And it was her involvement in the ASU where I got to know her as a ministerial advisor during the Gillard government. It was her countless achievements in the ASU, and particularly with the equal remuneration case for SACS workers, the social and community services workers right across Australia, where not only did we get to know Linda, you also appreciated the many arguments and viewpoints that she put, but the passion, the determination to make sure that people actually understood that there were a number of people, hundreds of thousands of people, predominantly women, who were being paid very little money to do things that, to be honest, we all took for granted. And I'll be honest, I think for a lot of us then in government, didn't really appreciate what we were dealing with until Linda and the ASU and others, I know there were other unions involved too, but it was people like Linda that actually brought to light why the government really needed to put forward and change the law, but also put forward an equal remuneration case to the then Fair Work Australia, about making sure that women deserved extra pay in recognition for the work that they were doing for many, many people right across the country. And it was this hard fight, and one that took many years of campaigning, in fact 6 years, but we ended up getting a historic ruling by Fair Work Australia that would change the lives of many women workers right across the country. And it's her fierce advocacy on behalf of these workers and others that was on show for everyone to see, because she was committed to closing that gender pay gap and improving superannuation access for women. And still today, there is still a lot of work that we need to do as a government, but also as a country, to make sure that we close the gap for women here in Australia. And we fast forward to the Senate. And although Linda's time in this place was short, she had such a profound impact on many of us. And it was these words during her first speech in the chamber that really has etched in my memory. And I remember when she mentioned that workers are not just a line item on a balance sheet, they are partners in the success of a business and deserve to be treated as such. And I think when you reflect on those words, it really brings home what it means to be a member of the Labor Party, what it means to be a member of the movement, and what it means to be someone who advocates for social justice and on the side of Australian workers. And she relentlessly pursued this action because she was enthused. Her enthusiasm had no bounds. She was determined. And it was this enthusiasm that made sure that she was an asset. And she was a member of my committee that I chair on the Foreign Affairs, Defence and Trade Legislation Committee. But I also had the honour of spending time with her, not too much time, but time nonetheless on the Senate Rural and Regional Affairs and Transport Committee with Senator Sterle. And I know we had some interactions with respect to the banking inquiry, which is still ongoing, but she was very determined to make sure that the big banks were held accountable. She was determined to make sure that many people in rural and regional Australia had access to a bank, and what we have seen is a number of banks' branches are now closing down, and people in regional Australia, particularly those who are not well off, whether they come from Aboriginal communities or very low pay, have to travel kilometres and if not hours just to go to a bank in order to get some assistance. And she was determined to change that, to make sure that within government we also make change to help those people. And it was really great to see someone who is also passionate about the regions. And I know there was a picture at a memorial service where I had a chuckle of her being next to a tractor and having a good old time. And there weren't many people, it's fair to say, on our side who were that passionate about agriculture. And it was great to have another comrade there who did.
Come on,
I know, but you should have seen the picture. She was smiling right next to that tractor wheel, but she was collaborative and knew when to pick up her moments with her witty humour. In fact, you could say Linda was very unique of her choice of eyewear, though, as well too. And I never really got to ask her where she got her glasses from, but her glasses came in all shapes and sizes and colours, very vibrant colours, from a traditional black frame to an eye-catching yellow, vibrant red, and even electric blue. Her distinctive eyewear was a signature of her personality, and with her today about that. Now, and away from politics, she served on many boards, including the Australian Centre for the Moving Image, including the MCG Trust, and yes, she had that infamous car park that, I'll be honest, I'll be debating whether it was worth it for the Senate, but, but also on the topic of the AFL football, it is still debatable, I think to some, whether she did actually barrack for Collingwood Football Club or not, but we'll let others judge. But on a more serious note, it was Linda's endearing qualities that was never dismissed, that she never dismissed people who came from a different point of view, a different ideological point of view, or a different background. She always found common ground, and that was really her training from university all the way through the union movement and into the Senate. She always wanted to make sure that there was common ground, because quite frankly we can all find common ground for the betterment of our country. She firmly believed in principles of good governance and wanting the best for the organisation that she was dealing with. And I know we end up later interacting on the Labor Party's national executive as well. And you could just see the value of hard work, of the importance of standing up for others and taking pride in causes that she believed in. And as the longest-serving woman on the national executive of the ALP, we can all be very proud of her notable achievements. And some would say after 20 years, you'd think you'd just hang up your boots and move on, but no. You know, she's a sucker for punishment. We end up appointing her on the Interim Governance Committee following the Steve Bracks and Ginny Macklin reforms. And I know Ben's rolling his eyes and shaking his head, but there couldn't have been a better person for it, to be frank. We needed mentors. We needed people who were acknowledged as leaders within the movement to make sure that the Victorian Labor Party, that was going through a pretty ugly period, to help make the branch more democratic and provide greater protection from branch stacking into the future. And there were 5 individuals that we ended up selecting, and Linda was one of them. And I think that was a testament to who she was. So I'm very proud to have had an opportunity, not just to have worked with Linda, but also just to place on the record briefly in how we remember her today. And I really wanted to reach out and say, again, my condolences do go out to her family, to her friends, but particularly her staff as well too. Having been a staffer as well, I know how tough it would be right now, and each of one of you here today, it is really great to see, and I know there are others who'd be watching, but do know that please do not ever hesitate to walk into any of our offices. If you ever need to talk, we are here for you. You are part of our family, the Labor Party family, and I really want to say vale to our good comrade Linda. You'll be sorely missed, and look after yourselves. Thank you very much.